So I wanted to talk about electromagnetic fields today, like I mentioned, and I think it's a very pertinent topic, especially in today's time, since we are staying indoors and most of us are doing a lot of work indoors on our laptops, on screens, different kinds of screens, and also spending time with the family. So to help you understand what electromagnetic field is, I wanted to really simplify it so that everybody who watches this video is able to know why this particular topic is so relevant to everyone, irrespective of what their age is. So electromagnetic fields, which is EMF, that's the short form that I'm going to be using. So electric fields are existent across nature. We have electric fields in our body, and the resonance or the pull and push, in simple terms, the pull and push that gets created because of this electric field is very roughly called the magnetic field. Okay, and so for example, in nature, when we studied in school, the very simple example that we were given was there are electric currents. Lightning is a result of electric current that gets charged because of charged clouds, right? So the electric field exists, but whether the current flows or not is what makes the difference, whether a lightning actually takes place or does not take place, right? So similarly, our body, the heart is a major, is one of the major receptors of electric field around itself, and even our body is very receptive. So you would have heard that metal and the human body are good conductors of electricity, and that explains it, right? And so when we come in touch with other electric fields or electromagnetic fields, there is either sometimes you're able to absorb it, sometimes it doesn't really make a difference to us, at other times it might be detrimental to us. So for example, let's see, so if it's right, when we listen to the radio, whether it's FM or AM radio, it doesn't really affect us much because those are very light waves. The frequency is extremely light, so it doesn't affect our body as much. But if we were, when we speak to, especially people who speak on a Bluetooth headless headset, they would see the difference when, if they are, especially the one that takes the motion of the jaw, they would sense if you are talking for, let's say, just more than 5-6 hours using the Bluetooth headset, and every day you will sense a sensation here or a pain here. Okay, and nowadays, of course, they have become more and more, there's been a lot of research done by different, whether it's Jabra, whether it is Samsung, or it is a lot of other brands. They have done research and they have improved upon it, so it may not be as much. But if you look at the earlier brands, earlier, you would actually get a numbness over here. And even for that matter, if you use your mobile phone and talk like this, one is, of course, your hand will hurt, and the other thing is that you will sense a numbness around the ear or the outer edge of the ear or the jawline or the face or the hands also as well. So that is when the body is not able to absorb as much or neutralize the effect of the electromagnetic field. Now, cell phone, of course, are just one example. Before we get into how the EMF affects us, I wanted to continue to help you look at, so electric fields exist all across around us. Some of it, most of it is not visible, so we don't realize it. When there is electricity, of course, we know there is electric current, but we still can't see it. And so the difference between the different waves is, we look at the two things that are important to pay attention to is the frequency and the wavelength. Now, frequency and wavelength are inversely proportional. What that means is that if the frequency is high, the wavelength will be less. Okay, so the wavelength is essentially the distance between two peaks or two depths that happen. Okay, and like a typical gamma ray has very high frequency, so the wavelength reduces greatly, so it's like, going like this, right, compared to, let's say, radio waves, which are like, will probably go like this. So the wavelength is bigger but the frequency is lesser. Right. So those are the two important things to understand and look at when we are talking about electromagnetic fields. Now, why is that important? Because the higher the frequency, the lesser the wavelength, and higher the frequency, the more stronger the signal or the current is. The third thing that I would say we should pay attention to is higher the frequency, it gets the temperature rises more and more. Okay, so that is a direct, so the frequency and the temperature that are directly related, which means if the frequency increases, then the temperature will also rise. That's why ultraviolet rays, so the frequency is also high, and that's why it is also very hot, right? The temperature is extremely hot. X-rays, gamma rays, all of them are high frequency, where the temperatures would be much higher than the human body can take for a prolonged period of time. Even though our body is very good at adapting, but it will only be able to take the high temperatures or high frequency only for a limited amount of time. Now, the other thing that I wanted to also just mention before we go ahead. So what does that do? What that does is let's say about 5 years back, we had 3G. 4G is just settled in now. 4G, at least in India and other parts of the world, has just settled in, has become stronger over the last 5 years. And there are places where they have already started 5G, and there are also some other countries like Australia is majorly opposing 5G. Now, what is the reason for that? Because 5G or 4G, or if you remember when the cell phones had just got launched, cell phones, the power of the cell phones was not so much. So, you would get, though the number of people on cell phones were less, so the signal was obviously stronger. But if you would go to certain interiors of a city, or you would go to the outskirts, the signal would get weak because there were not as many towers at that time, as well as it was not a strong signal. So with every new generation of development of cell phone technology and towers and improvements, it has led to stronger and stronger signals. And if you remember what I told you in the beginning, stronger the signal, the higher it is a possibility, the higher the frequency and higher the temperature. Okay, so if 5G comes in, if smart cities that we talk about, smart homes, smart offices come about, where most of our things are at the we don't have to click anything, we probably have to clap our hands, or we just have to say something, and things are all connected, and we press one button and everything is fed in, and it just, our home, the TV switches on the moment we enter the house. There is food ready because it's warmed up, because it checks how much time is left by the time we arrive at home in the smart car, and all of that is related. Now, when we do that, it means that most of these smart items or smart electronics would be wireless. And if it is wireless, we know that the current has to be higher. That means the current has to be stronger, which means the frequency has to be stronger. Okay, so I was looking, when I was preparing for this video, I wanted to, I was reading up again on some of the research that has been done, and some of the things that people have reported in especially in Germany, America, and WHO. And this is also my own research, people that I have worked with, and my own personal experience. So some of the beginning sensations that side effects that people begin to see are having headaches or migraines, and those could be only for, when you are speaking for more than a couple of hours, you're speaking more than 3 hours in a day or more than 2 hours in a day, and you can't take it. And you might have, like I mentioned, sensation, you might have slight rashes, and you might have a little bit, some people might feel nauseous. Now all of that could be a result of too much EMF that you are exposed to. Now, if I were to look at in our house, what are the electromagnetic fields, right? Are we really exposed to so much? So understand, electric fields exist across. So if we look at electric fields just per se, the light bulb, the tube lights that are there, the lighting, any kind of lighting is electric, so it will have electricity, right? It will also have a certain amount of magnetic waves. The fans that run, or the aircon that runs, or the heating system that runs, that also has electricity. There is a dishwasher, there is a television, and especially if it is a smart TV, then it will take up much more power. And when I say power, I'm talking about that strong. It'll be stronger in terms of the signal from the Wi-Fi. We have a Wi-Fi, at least one Wi-Fi router in every home. We have perhaps at least 2 cell phones in every house. We have a couple of iPads or tablets, and we have probably about 2 or 3 laptops or computers, and maybe a printer. We also have the fridge. We also have a washing machine. We have the oven. So all of these things are electrical items, and they will be having EMF. And of course the microwave, how can I forget the microwave? So all of these items will be having EMF. Now what happens when we are exposed to some of these things? In the long run, it starts affecting us. Now there have been many more studies that have been done in the recent times, and if you also observe, it is very common that each one of us would know at least 5 people, not less, at least 5 people, if not more, who are suffering from cancer. Now, how has it become so common? One might say because the diagnosis is easy, people are able to get checkups done, so there is diagnosis and they get treatments, etc. But the fact of the matter is, cancer, the rate of cancer spreading and the different variety of cancers has only enhanced and increased over the last 10 years, ever since we have moved towards smarter cities and stronger modifications in our tablets, cell phones, smartwatches, right? And we will either have a pacemaker, we'll have smartwatches, or we will have Fitbit, or some kind of instrument that we will probably have on our wrist as well. And what this leads to in children. Now, a lot of parents who do come to me complain of the fact that their children are very hyperactive. They can't control their children because they're so hyperactive, or they come and say that they have ADHD, or they have they have a very low attention span. So the reason for this is, now from childhood, these children have been exposed to severe, very, very extremely high EMF. And especially the children who are right now about 10 to 13 years old, especially anybody who is less than 13 years old has been exposed to extreme EMF even without unknowing. So even the baby's heart monitor, even the checkups that are done in the hospitals, all of that is EMF. So a mother, if a pregnant lady, why do the doctors say that if you're pregnant, avoid using the cell phone, at least next to your body? The reason for that is because the radiations do reach not just the mother's body, but of course the womb as well. And why is it said that if you're pregnant, do not go near the microwave? Because one of the studies in fact showed that the microwave's radiation was felt from 2 rooms away. And when I say 2 rooms, it includes, which means there were walls in between, and so the microwave radiation could be felt through the walls. And that's another thing. All the man-made electromagnetic fields can go through walls, and that is what creates even more danger for us. Okay. So in the long run, a lot of people that have what people have complained is, and you will be surprised, because I was surprised that so many new diseases, new illnesses that we have been hearing about, like for example fibromyalgia, which was not heard of so often. Now people at least know about it or have heard about it, right? So in the long run, what addition to what I just mentioned, the effects that the electromagnetic fields have on the human body could be brain fog, lack of focus, fatigue, long-term fatigue, ringing in the ears, sensations, tingling sensation, pins and needles in the hands, on the face, in the ears. There could be redness, there could be itchiness or desire to scratch the skin. There would be mood swings. Of course, cancer has also been related to this. So all of these things are related and could be the cause of these electromagnetic fields, could be the cause of these illnesses. Now, how come it affects someone and it doesn't affect somebody else? Well, like any other virus, because virus also has a frequency, right? And like somebody's immunity is high, or the body is able to absorb, or the body is strong, or the immune system is strong, and the person has more positive thoughts and higher vibrations, so the body is able to take much more, right? And hence some people are more sensitive to these EMF compared to the others, right? So that doesn't mean that if I'm strong and I know my body can resist the electromagnetic field, so it is okay for me to talk over the cell phone, right? That's not perhaps a safe or a wise decision to make. And as I move on, I also wanted to talk about let me just see what I just want to make sure I don't miss out on some pertinent topics that I wanted to share. Okay, and yes, as I had mentioned, metal is in some conductors the metal is a good conductor of electricity, but also metal can shield from the magnetic waves. And there are of course there are the ones that have a higher frequency, the EMF, where the frequency is lower. The walls can protect us, so where the major power transmitters that you see outside, so inside the house, yes, it is safer if all the windows and doors are closed, because it acts as a shield. But of course many of us too keep windows open, we can't keep them closed, so then we are letting the radiation in as well. And then, for example, even if there's a way to dispose of the AAA and AA batteries, and so after you dispose them off in a certain way, it does not harm you anymore, right? So there are devices that do not harm us in a certain way, but there are higher frequency ones that can harm us, right? So I will not go into the different kinds of the spectrum of electromagnetic spectrum, and which ones are ionizing or which ones are not ionizing, but I essentially say ionizing ones, which is the X-ray and gamma rays, have the potential to break down the molecules, so of course they are more dangerous for us. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about higher exposure. So like I mentioned, if we were to look at the bedroom, in the bedroom typically we'll have a couple of cell phones. We will perhaps switch on our cell phone, plug it in and charge it overnight, which is a bad idea, because again, there was a research that was done. When cell phones are just lying around, they imagine if we can get call from abroad, from thousands of miles away, obviously the current is extremely high. So the cell phone itself, the current is extremely high, so the radiation is very, very high, and ideally you should not touch it next to your body. So, and then when we are plugging it in, we are supercharging it. So the current is getting supercharged, which means that it will have a much more adverse effect on our bodies. So what do we do? What do we do? So some of the things that one can do to avoid this, and I think these are very simple techniques. The biggest one that for me I found groundbreaking was to buy air tube headsets. Okay, so the air tube headsets, they have very minimal metal. They have copper, and copper, of course, as we know, is not a good conductor of electricity. So but they have, so typically the wire, so for example this one, this will have a different metals inside. Okay, this one, and the air tube ones, what will have when we the headset, so from about 1 feet away from the face, it'll only have air tube. Okay, so it will not have any metal, which means that in the moment you plug it into your cell phone, it will stop any wave till it reaches about 1 or 1.5 feet away from your ears, and then the rest of it is through air tube. So the effect is gets reduced a lot, and that's something that I'm going to buy the moment I'm able to. I'm going to buy the air tube headsets. I think it's a great idea. So like I was saying, so number one, if you do use your cell phone, the best way to use your cell phone is not to have it near your body. Have it at least 3 feet away. If not 3 feet, as far away as you can. So at least 1 or 2 feet away from your body, from your hands, knees, anything. Keep it on a table, keep it on something else which is away from the body, and talk on the speaker phone. That is the best way to minimize electromagnetic field effect on your body. The second way that you can do it is using the air tube headsets or the earphones. Earphones I would not recommend, but fine, if not the headset, then earphones, air tube earphones would be good. I would, and please do not use the regular earphones, because that is intensifying the effect of the EMF and taking it straight into your ear and next to your brain, which is not something that you would want. Okay, the third thing that you can do in terms of your cell phone, when you're charging it, charge it in a separate room from where you're sitting. Okay, a lot of us use it for alarm. So if you can charge your cell phone, and if you are putting it for alarm, then I would suggest put it in a different room, so that also you can get up and you're not snoozing it. If not, keep it at least 3 feet away, and so that you still have to get up and switch the snooze off, or you have to switch the alarm off. So that's number 3 that you can do in terms of your cell phone. When you're sleeping, keep minimal devices in your room. So no Wi-Fi router, no television. If the television is there, Wi-Fi router is there, switch them off and plug them out, because as we know, anything that is still plugged in, the electric current is still flowing. The effect is not much, but it is still quite a bit, right? So no Wi-Fi router in the room, no smart watches in the room, no any other electrical appliances in the room where you're sleeping. Okay, and when you are and whenever you're using the microwave, so when we come to the kitchen part of it, when you're using the microwave, if you heat, I personally have stopped using the microwave, and I'm going to be, the moment I am able to dispose it, I'm going to dispose it off, because I don't want to use and expose my house to radiation. So the microwave is something that, in case you really have to use it, put in whatever you have to warm up and move to a different room. Don't stand near, nobody should stand near the microwave when the things are heating up, or anywhere in the kitchen. Okay, and when it is out of use, switch it off and pull out, unplug it. Okay, so any electrical appliances, the moment it is used, please unplug it, and that will reduce the electromagnetic field in your house quite a bit, and you will see the difference in terms of your sleeping patterns. Everybody in the house will be able to sleep much better. You will be able, you will have the better quality of sleep. You will also have you will realize that how there's a change in your brain functioning, and how in your memory as well. So you will feel those differences, right? And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please like and subscribe and follow our channel on YouTube, which is Tarotting by Bhavna. And we are also there, of course, on Facebook and Instagram by the same name, Tarotting by Bhavna. And I would love for you to be part of it, because there would be workshops that you would be aware of. There are different groups and there are group discounts that would be coming up in the coming few months. So it'll be great to see you there as well. Till next time, take care and stay safe and stay healthy.